Recently in powerlifting, we've started to see a lot of young junior lifters emerging who are not just prospects, but they are getting very close to world record level lifts. And it got me thinking, have there been any juniors who have taken world records, and who have been the youngest powerlifters to take open world records in the IPF? Well, as it turns out, there have been 13 juniors who have taken open world records across both the men and the women. In this video, I'm going to go through those 13 athletes, and I'm going to rank them in terms of the youngest. There have been 7 men and 6 women who have taken open world records as juniors, including 2 to 3 teenagers. Now, I say 2 to 3 because the youngest ever man to take an open world record in the IPF, I don't even know his exact age because he only ever competed once, and pretty much no one's ever heard of him. He's a mysterious guy, and I don't even know what his exact age is. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's rank the top 13 youngest athletes, powerlifters, to take an open IPF world record. So, starting off with number 13, this is one we'd all be familiar with, John Haack in the 83s. So John Haack was just over 23 years old, 4 months, 24 days, when he broke the 83 kilo world record with 813. You can see his lifts there, 298 squat, 200 bench, and this 315 deadlift, giving him an 813 kilo total for the world record and world championship win in 2016 in that famous battle against Brett Gibbs. Speaking of Brett Gibbs, it was actually Brett Gibbs's total that he broke, or world record that he broke. It was 801 coming into this, so he upped it by 12 kilos. And this world record stood for 308 days until it was beaten by Brett Gibbs again with 814 kilos. So chipped by a single kilo. So John Haack, we all know after this, I think it was a year or so after, he switched to the untested side. But yeah, it just goes to show how much of a young, promising lifter he was, given that he, really achieved his peak in tested raw powerlifting as a junior. Although who knows how much stronger he would have gotten had he remained in raw IPF powerlifting. I'm sure he would have gotten quite a bit stronger still. On to number 12. Speaking of the man, here he is, Brett Gibbs. Brett Gibbs actually broke his world record in the 83s at a slightly younger age. I'm talking slightly younger by about 2 weeks than John Haack. So pretty crazy the parallels there. He actually broke this world record at 2014 Junior Worlds, which he ended up winning. So a 770.5 total. You can see there the 280 kilo squat. This 185 bench, which check out the close grip on this. Jesus. You'd be hard pressed to find close grips like that nowadays. Obviously, Brett ended up widening his grip as he progressed in the next few years. And a 305.5 kilo deadlift, so 770.5. So this obviously won him Junior Worlds, set an open world record, and this actually would have won him Open Worlds had he had competed as an open lifter. Obviously, he wouldn't have known that going in. But there you go. So this world record stood for 750 days up until it was beaten, obviously, by John Haack, as I mentioned previously. And Brett Gibbs actually upped this world record to 801. Like I said before, that's when John Haack beat it in 2016. However, like I said, Brett Gibbs took the world record back to 814. And he actually extended that all the way till 830.5. And that was the, peak he got to as an 83 lifter. Unfortunately, he then left the sport pretty much after 2019. And nowadays, seems like he's doing some spearfishing, some marathon running, all sorts of stuff. Not powerlifting, unfortunately, which is a shame because I don't think we saw... maybe we did see his peak, who knows. He was 28 years old in 2019. But I think he definitely could have progressed further. But there you go. He was a junior lifter, 23 years old, 4 months, just a few days younger than John Haack when he broke the world record. So pretty cool that the two rivals are actually, neck and neck when it comes to being the youngest to take the world record. Number 11 is Krzysztof Wierzbicki. So we're going back now a few years. So in the 93s, at 2013 Worlds, he totaled 810. Now, this was actually the first IPF recognized world record in the 93s. Obviously, Krzysztof Wierzbicki was a defending world champion. He won the world title in 2012. However, the IPF had a predetermined world standard that you had to hit to qualify to break a world record. 8:10 was that mark, and Krzysztof Wierzbicki, in defending his world title, hit 8:10 to set that first official world record. He did so via this 355 deadlift. Obviously, he is Mr. Deadlift. This was the only video I could find, the only lift I could find footage of from that year from Krzysztof. But 810 kilo total. He was just over 23 years old, super young. And this record stood for just under a year until it was broken at 2014 Worlds by Mikhailo Bulanyi of Ukraine with 847.5. Krzysztof Wierzbicki still won Worlds that year, but Mikhailo hit the total first, setting the world record. Obviously, Krzysztof then moved up into the 105s and took a world record there as well. However, he was no longer a junior when he did that. But he started pretty young. I mean, he won his first world title at the age of 22. So he was definitely a young lifter when he was coming up. Okay, on to our top 10. And our first female lifter off the list is Jessica Espinal. In the 47s, this was a relatively recent one. She broke the 47 kilo world record with 433.5 via this 150 kilo squat, this 97.5 kilo bench, and this 186 kilo final deadlift. So this was done at 2024 Junior Worlds, and this still remains the open world record, 213 days and counting. Obviously, she took the previous world record, which was held by Tiffany Chapon of France, which was 433. She chipped it by half a kilo. Spoiler alert, you will see Tiffany Chapon later on this list. But yeah, she still holds the world record. Obviously, Tiff couldn't quite get it back at Sheffield when she had the opportunity to. And now we're going to see Jess versus Tiff at Worlds, with Jess being the reigning, well, not reigning world champ, that would be Tiff, but being the world record holder. So we're going to see world champ versus world record holder in that showdown, which will be pretty cool. Number 9 is Charles Okpoko in the 66s, who was 22 years old, 8 months and 3 days old when he broke the world record on his way to winning Worlds in 2018 with a 688 kilo total. You can see with 253 squat. He was one of the most muscular 66ers you will ever see. 167.5 kilo bench and a 267.5 kilogram deadlift, which you can see here, on his way to totaling 688 kilos. So this upped the world record by 8 kilos, previously held by Sergei Gladkic. And Charles Okpoko actually came back at Worlds the following year in 2019 and extended his own world record to 705.5. And it was that 705.5 that stood for so long. That was only beaten in 2022 by Eddie Berglund when he took it up to 710. So that's why 1454 days, he essentially held the world record for 4 years. If you include, the 2019 total where he upped it. But yeah, from the age of 22 years old and 8 months, for 4 years from then, he was the strongest 66 ever, really. And it's kind of a shame. Charles Okpoko is almost one of the what ifs in powerlifting. Had he have stayed in the IPF? Because after 2019, he left to go to USAPL and he competed in that, whatever the weight class, the made up weight class that USAPL, got out of thin air, the 75s. And he, put up some good totals, but he kind of never was, at that, best in the world level, I would say again, which was a shame. If he had stayed for longer in the IPF as a 66, especially given how young he was, he absolutely could have carved out an elite level resume. I mean, 705.5 is where he was at in 2019. I mean, that legendary three-way tie at Worlds last year was 707.5. So yeah, the world record obviously has gone up quite a bit now with Shell, but for those couple years, the 66ers were around about that mark, and Charles Okpoko could have absolutely added a hell of a lot more world titles. Anyway, that's another discussion. I don't want to get sidetracked too far. But there you go. 22 years old, 8 months, Charles Okpoko was in 2018. Number 8, we have Amanda Lawrence, the 84 kilo queen, who in 2019 Worlds took the world record and the world title in that legendary showdown with Daniella Melo at the age of just over 21. Sorry, 22, not 21. So she totaled 613 kilos. You can see there via this 243 kilo squat, which moved pretty well. And yeah, this was one of the, I would still say this is up there with one of the best ever showdowns and battles we've had on the female side of powerlifting. Amanda versus Daniella that year. They both totaled 613. You can see a 117.5 bench by Amanda there. And the final 252.5 kilo deadlift, which gave her the 613 total for the world record and the win against Daniella, who again is another lifter you will see later on this list because she was also quite young herself. But yeah, the world record prior to this was 571, held by Daniella Melo. And since Amanda Lawrence did this, she has held the world record since that time. So that's why 2,119 days and counting. So going on 6 years, she has been the strongest 84, and she has essentially been competing against herself ever since that time. She hasn't had a head-to-head rival since essentially 2019 Worlds with that clash with Daniella. And she's taken the world record up for a ride of over 30 kilos. He now stands at 647.5, which he set at Sheffield 2024, I believe it was. Obviously now things are changing a bit with Agata Sitko sort of nipping on her heels from a couple weight classes below. So we'll see how much further that world record has to go. But Amanda Lawrence has been on top for quite a while, and it makes sense why, because she got there at such a young age, literally just over 22, when she became the best and the strongest ever in the world for that weight class. Okay, on to number 7, back to the guys. Anatolii Novopismennyi in the 93s set a world record very young at 2018 Euros. He was under 20, he was 21 years old when he took the open 93 kilo world record. Obviously, nowadays we know Anatolii as a 105, having been a multiple time world champion, their best lifter, world record holder. In fact, he's the current world record holder in the 105s. But back in the day, I feel like this is pretty underrated. Not a lot of people, give him the credit or recognition for this, but he was a 93 kilo world champion and world record holder at a crazy young age. Like you see there, only 21 years old. He actually did this at 2018 Euros via this 320 squat, which was, look at that crazy grind. That was insane. This 197.5 kilo bench, which he has since added quite a few kilos to, now that he's 105. Same with his squat, actually. He added a lot of kilos there. And this 332.5 kilo deadlift on his way to totaling 850 kilos. So this beat the world record that was held by Mikhailo Bulanyi of 847.5, who was another Ukrainian lifter that I mentioned when I was talking about Krzysztof Wierzbicki. And Anatolii actually extended this by another 3.5 kilos in the following year, in 2019, before he decided to move up to the 105s, which I guess makes sense given how young he was. He still had some growing to do. So he moved up to the 105s. And obviously that's where we know him from predominantly today as, being one of the most dominant 105 lifters ever. But this world record actually stood up until 2021, when it was broken by Sascha Stenderbach at Western Euros, who did 863 there, that German lifter. So Anatolii not only took the 93 world record at the age of 21, that world record actually remained with him for damn near 3 years, which is pretty impressive given how young he was when he set that. And like I said, he is the current 105 kilo world record holder, which obviously he was no longer a junior when he took that, but he would have been close. I think it was only 24 when he took that world record. Imagine being 24 and taking your second weight class world record. People forget how good Anatolii is, man. I hope he's in good health for Worlds, because that battle of the 105s is going to be crazy. Okay, number 6, we have Alex Edward Raus in the 105s. Now, this is another throwback, one that not a lot of people talk about these days. The Estonian lifter, who at 2014 Worlds was 21 years old and 10 months when he set the 105 world record with 852.5. And the only lift I could find footage of was this 330 kilo squat that he did as part of that total. You can see absolutely dunked it and stood up with it. Plenty of depth. And he was, 21 years old and 10 months on his way to that total. Now, this bit of controversy around the 105 world record history, because originally the world record was set by Zelim Kuvambayev at 855 in 2013. However, that was annulled due to, I can only assume, a doping violation. Of course, in 2014, it was actually Yuri Belkin who won Worlds in the 105s with 867.5, which was technically the world record at the time. However, that also got annulled due to, once again, I can only assume some sort of doping violations. Not directly after the meet, but he must have, some sort of violation a few years back, and they wiped his world record. So there you go. So this world record, 852.5, was sort of given in retrospect when the other two were annulled. That's what makes the situation a bit weird. But because of that, this is technically the first 105 IPF world record. And this actually stood for 2 years until Bryce Lewis took it to 860.5 in 2016. So there you have it. Very young world record holder. Alex Edward Raus actually was the world champion in 2013, the year prior, with a lower total that didn't quite qualify for the world standard that IPF set to become an official world record. But yeah, there you go. At the age of 21, Alex Edward Raus was a world champion. In fact, at the age of 20, he was a world champion. At the age of 21, he was a world record holder. And given how young he was, you might think, or you might have thought he would have stuck around for quite a while. I believe he competed for a few more years, but nowadays he's no longer competing, and he's actually a jiu-jitsu competitor nowadays, from what I saw, which is pretty interesting. Man, imagine being the poor bastard that has to grapple that guy. Jeez, I can just imagine getting manhandled by him with how strong he was. But there you have it. He's actually the second youngest male open world record holder, behind our mysterious number one, who we're going to get to soon. But on to our top 5, and we have Jade Jacob in the 57s. The young 21-year-old French woman was 21 years old and 7 months when she set the open world record at 2022 Junior Euros in the 57s with a 495.5 via those lifts there, 172.5 kilo squat. Looking pretty strong. This 100 kilo bench, which she tempoed the hell out of that. Jesus, I can't imagine lifting a maximal bench with that kind of eccentric tempo, but there you go, it worked for her, right? And a 223 kilo deadlift. So she actually took this record from Joy Namani. She chipped it by half a kilo. I believe they went back and forth a few times. I think Joy Namani took it back 118 days later before Jade reclaimed it, and then the record has since bounced between Jade and Natalie Richards, another UK lifter. They've gone back and forth a few times. However, Jade Jacob has reclaimed the world record, and she now currently holds it again with 519.5. That's the mark that she's brought it up to. So she's added pretty significant amount. I mean, damn near 25 kilos to that world record in these last couple of years. But yeah, very young, 21 and pretty much a half years old, and still very much in her prime, getting stronger. And speaking of young French women, we go to another one. Number 4 on the list is Tiffany Chapon, Turbo Tiff, the 47 kilo lifter, who at 2022 Worlds, in winning her second world title at the time, because she actually won Worlds in 2021 as well, I believe, she broke the open world record at the age of just over 21. How crazy is that? So she totaled 426.5, which actually took the world record from Wei Ling Chen of 407.5, a world record that stood from 2015. So I believe at the time, that was actually the longest standing IPF world record, at least on the women's side. Imagine breaking a world record that had stood for 7 years at the age of just over 21. How crazy is that? You can see those lifts there. Here's her final 170 deadlift to lock up that world record total. So Turbo Tiff is probably the most credentialed junior powerlifter of all time, because she's won 4 open world titles. So from 2021 all the way until 2024, she won 4 straight world titles, all as a junior. I believe she's only just out of the juniors this year. She'll be 24 for this year's Worlds. So this will actually be her first Worlds as an open lifter, despite being a 4-time world champion. Imagine entering the Opens as a 4-time world champion. But there you go. She obviously started very young, and she became the strongest in the world ever at the age of just over 21. So she extended the world record up to 433 until it was broken by obviously Jess Espinal, who I mentioned earlier in the video, who now still holds the record with that 433.5. And like I said, that Tiff versus Jess showdown at Worlds is going to be quite epic, with the 4-time world champ against current world record holder. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, very, very young world record there. Okay, on to our mysterious number 3. It is the youngest ever man to hold an open world record in the IPF is Viki Aryanto in the 66s. Now here's the thing. I could not find anywhere. First of all, I couldn't find much information on this guy at all, but I couldn't find his exact birthday. I don't know exactly when he was born. I know he was born in 1994, so I have the year. And I had to do a bit of deduction for this, but based on the ages that was listed on his open powerlifting record, I deduced that he would have had to have been born between May and December of 1994, assuming those ages were correct in open powerlifting, which I hope they were. But yeah, he had to have been born between May and December 1994, which means his age when he broke the 66 world record at the 2014 Asia and Oceania Championships, he would have been anywhere from 19 years and 11 months old to 20 years and 7 months old. So he could have been anywhere in that range, which means he could well have been a teenager. We don't know. If anyone knows what this guy's birthday is, please let me know, because I would love to put an actual age to this and not just an age range. But either way, regardless of where he falls on that range, he is number 3 on this list, because he would have been younger than Turbo Tiff, and he is older than our top 2, who are both well and truly teenagers and younger than 19 years and 11 months, which we'll get to in a sec. But first, let's go through what his actual numbers were. So this was the first 66 IPF world record. 653.5 is what he set it as. With this crazy easy 273.5 pull. This was actually the only lift I could find footage of. But check out how crazy quick was that. That is insane. 273.5 like an opener. 653.5 for the first IPF world record. And this actually stood for 451 days until it was broken by Keith McHoney in 2016, who put up 655. Now, the thing with Viki, aside from the mystery around his birthday, this was his first and only Raw competition he ever did. He literally competed a Raw once, broke a world record, and then bounced. Never competed Raw again. How insane is that? He was actually an equipped lifter, and he remained an equipped lifter after this. I believe he competed up until about 2019 or so as an equipped guy. And he was at Worlds a few times. I believe he podiumed once or twice as well at Worlds as an equipped 66. But man, based on that final deadlift and those numbers, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen footage of that 225 squat or 155 bench, but based on how that deadlift moved, I assume he would have had more. At the very least, he had plenty left on that final deadlift. So it's a real shame he didn't stick around in the Raw side of powerlifting for much longer, because where he could have taken that total world record to, hell, where he could have taken that deadlift world record to, who the hell knows, because of how strong he looked on that day. And he was so young. He literally could well have been a teenager when he did this. At worst, he was 20 and a half, roughly 20 and a half years old, which is crazy young. And yeah, man, the level of mystery around this guy is crazy. We don't know his age. He's from Indonesia, so not a lot of info to be found, and he only ever did one. I mean, I guess go out on top, right? If you set a world record, then leave in a win, I guess. But I would have loved to have seen more of him. Now, what that means is, I mean, I can't answer conclusively if there's ever been a teenage man who's taken an open world record in the IPF. It could have been this guy based on what day he was born. We don't know. But we also don't know if someone like, say, Nonso Chinye, who is one of those young lifters who are approaching world record level numbers very quickly that I mentioned at the start of the video, if he takes the world record at Worlds this year, which I think is well capable of, he would be 20 years old and I want to say like 4 to 5 months. So that puts him somewhere in this range. We're not going to know if that makes him the youngest ever male open world record holder unless we know Viki Aryanto's birthday. So if someone knows, please let me know. But yeah, Nonso breaking the world record at Worlds would be right around the upper end of this range actually, which kind of puts it in context how crazy this is, because we all recognize how much of an absolute phenom Nonso is with being damn near the best in the world so young. Well, this guy was that age, if not younger, being the world record holder. Obviously, back in 2014, powerlifting was a very different landscape, but still, very impressive from the mysterious Indonesian Viki Aryanto. But okay, on to our final two, and these are well and truly teenagers. Number 2 is Daniella Melo, also in the 84s. So, I talked about her versus Amanda Lawrence previously in this video, but Daniella Melo, when she won Worlds and took the world record in 2018, she was only 19 years old and 8 months when she took the Open World Championships and Open World Record with 571. So you can see the lifts here with a 213 kilo squat, which moved pretty damn well. A 127.5 bench. And a 230.5 kilo deadlift. So a 571 total. And this world record stood for a year until obviously 2019 Worlds, the battle between her and Amanda. The world record went up to 613. The world record prior to this, again, a bit of controversy. Natalie Kuzmina was 560 in 2013. Again, that world record was annulled for, I assume, doping violation. So technically the world record was Ilya Strick with 537.5 in 2017. But either way, Daniella absolutely annihilated the world record with that 571. And she technically extended it to 613 the following year, even though she lost to Amanda that year. And after that, I don't think she competed too much, which was a shame because, would have loved to have seen her versus Amanda more because that was an absolute epic clash at 2019 World. But she's lost a lot of weight and she's currently, I believe, like a 63 or something crazy or 69 lifter. I think she still competes at a much lighter body weight now. So that's pretty cool to see where she went to. But she was very young, 19 years old when she did this. How crazy is that? A teenager winning open worlds and taking an open world record. Absolutely wild. Second youngest ever, behind only number 1. Probably know who this is going to be, the Polish Wonder Woman herself, Agata Sitko. So back in 2022 Worlds, she took the 76 IPF world record at the age of 19 and a half. 19 and a half. How crazy is that? So she totaled 585 with a 202.5 squat that you see there. Now she actually... So it was a 145 kilo bench, which she's since beaten at a lower weight class. She's beaten all these numbers at a lower weight class, actually. And a 237.5 kilo deadlift to lock up a 585 total and the open world record. Crazy to see how far she's come since. I mean, it makes sense. She was so young when she did this. But she didn't actually win Worlds. This wasn't enough to win Worlds that year because the lifter she took the world record from previously was Jess Bittner. So Jess Bittner, Canadian lifter, held the world record 563 going into this. Agata got it to 585. However, this was the year where Jess Bittner pulled that miracle final deadlift to pull for the win. 261.5, I believe it was, which was the heaviest ever IPF deadlift done by a woman, regardless of weight class at the time. And that matched the total 585 and just ended up winning on bodyweight, despite Agata walking away with the world record with 585 since she hit it first. So I guess walking away with an open world record at the age of 19 and a half would have been some consolation for finishing silver instead of gold. But yeah, this world record stood for about half a year until Kalina Tongatea chipped it by half a kilo. Of course, since then, Agata has taken it back. When she won Worlds last year in 2024, she did so in the 76ers with a 613 total for the world record there. But then Kalina Tongatea took it back with 616 at Sheffield. So it's bounced back and forth quite a bit. And obviously, as well, Agata has dropped down to the 69 kilo weight class and annihilated the world record there. And she's probably going to go up to the 84s and take that world record. And she may as well go down to the 63s and take that world record too, because why the hell not? She is just that good. And she has essentially completed powerlifting already, winning open world title now, 2 Sheffields, 2 consecutive Sheffields in 2 weight classes. Sorry, in 1 weight class, which is even more impressive. Like bench world records in 3 weight classes. Also has equipped world titles. So yeah, absolutely crazy that she's done all this as a junior. I mean, she got a very young start. She's been competing since like 17 or so, and it just goes to show that yeah, when you're setting open world records at the age of 19 and a half, it's no surprise that you become the female GOAT by the age of essentially 23 that she's now. Or 22, right? Is she even 23 yet? Probably not. 22 years old. Yeah, she wouldn't be. So she's 22 years old. Well and truly still a junior, and she's already the best female powerlifter ever. I think undisputed at this point. It has to be because of how outrageous she is. Absolutely insane. There you have it. The youngest ever open world record holder in IPF powerlifting history, Agata Sitko, 19 and a half. I know there are a lot of young, up-and-coming, very young, very promising, very strong powerlifters, but I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to beat this one. I think it's going to be a while before we see someone younger than 19 and a half take an open world record, because that is ridiculous. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think this is going to get beaten anytime soon, or if you see any lifters who are potentially capable of taking an open world record at such a young age.